Hello. I want to spend a few minutes talking about assignment critiques and what the goals are for this. So, some people they approach this and they get really, feel uncomfortable offering criticism to, somebody else in the class. They just want to be supportive and kind, and I totally get that. But it's not the most helpful. So, I'll be providing, criticism, detailed information about their images and, my ideas and suggestions and how it went. But for you guys, what you should try to work on is you've also been reading the material. You've also been kind of going through all of the images and seeing, how they pertain to the images you're seeing students create. So when you read the person's statement about the image they put up and you see how they were attempting to reference the photographer they chose, just give some constructive criticism, offer suggestions for improvement, how that photograph is working to reference the photographer's visual style or subject matter and how it wasn't. So try in general when you're offering feedback to pull upon your knowledge not only of the photographer that they're referencing, but also of the historical period, the cameras being used, the movements. So all of those things kind of come into it, and you can, reference and use those as resources when offering constructive criticism to your classmates. So again, the historical period is relevant, the cameras and equipment that, the photographers that they're referencing had options to, and also, of course, the visual style and movements that that photographer was a part of or involved in. You can be specific. You can, if your suggestions are compositional, say, oh, that photographer tend to only have, subject matter where um, or composition where their subjects were centered in the frame and yours is a little off to the side, so maybe centering your composition to match that aesthetic style would be useful. Maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe that photographer only used studio backdrops and somebody using a different kind of a backdrop. So you can just make suggestions for improvement that pertain to the specific photographer they chose and to the specific historical period and assignment techniques. So you can suggest compositional improvements, you can suggest lighting improvements, you can suggest, background changes, things like that. Or if the photograph is working perfectly as is and is really referencing the photographer's style that they chose, discuss that. These are all good options. So you have to submit the critiques that you want to turn in for credit on the Canvas discussions critique thread for that assignment. As a professor, I'm kind of required to use Canvas as my method for grading for discussions and critiques. So there will be a discussion thread under each assignment link in the weekly module. So when you turn in an assignment, right under that there is going to be a critique discussion. And that's where you turn in the discussions for each of the assignments. So you should also post them to Flickr. So with the photographer's work that you chose, just post your comments under there in the comment section so I know which specific which specific student and image you're referencing. Either include the student's name and the specific photograph that they submitted, or you can just copy and paste the URL to that image and include it with your critique on Canvas so I can see the exact, image that you're referencing, which will make your critique make a lot more sense for me, right? Because I can see the specific feedback you're giving with the image. You could also just copy and paste a photograph and put it in there for reference. Any of those technique works, as long as I can have an understanding of the photograph you're referencing and the bulk of your critique. That's what I'm looking for. So they should be submitted in both places. Now, you can submit as many comments as you want with as many different photographs on Flickr. I'm not going to use those for grading, but they're useful for the students. The ones that I will be grading are the two critiques you turn in on Canvas. Please don't post critiques to photos that already have two critiques posted. We want to make sure that everyone gets a critique, not just the most popular photographs, and it's not very useful for the person being critiqued as well, and for all the other students whose work isn't being critiqued. Also know that late critiques will not be evaluated for credit. So I do give a 24-hour grading window for these. As long as your critiques are submitted within 24 hours of the posted due date, I will accept them for full credit. No questions asked. It's a grace period. But I won't accept work submitted later than that because this is group participation based. If you're giving feedback weeks after an assignment is given, or even days after an assignment is already posted and been graded and been done with, that's not really going to help the person whose work you're evaluating. So because they're group participation based, I don't accept late work for these. So just make sure you post them to Canvas within 24 hours of the posted deadline to receive credit for your critiques. You must follow these length and content requirements to receive credit. So each of your critique postings on the Canvas discussions must be at a minimum 150 words in length or more. We're looking for a quality analysis and discussion in these critiques, not just a couple comments. So the minimum I accept for credit is 150 words. Any words less than that, it's going to be downgraded. So again, just make sure both of your critiques meet that requirement, that they're each 150 words each at minimum. And quality is of even greater importance than quantity, right? So 150 words is important as a starting place, but your comments and arguments should be analytical in nature, supported by facts from the course material, and only appropriate statements to the assignment will be given credit. So if the bulk of your critique is, hey, cool photograph, I really liked it, it's nice, that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for a really authentic and helpful analysis of the image and feedback about technique. So I very much look forward to reading your critiques on Canvas. If you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always happy to hear from students and answer questions. So I'll look at your critiques in Canvas. Thanks.